employees can become demotivated over time. I'll provide some tips to apply to prevent that from happening in this video. Hello, I'm Stephen Goldberg of Optimist Performance, bringing you practical tips and ideas on leadership, team development, and employee performance in the workplace. I was having a conversation this morning with a manager or a director who is looking to replace one of his managers. And the person had started actually looking for a job. They found that out. And over the time that the director has come on board, he's seen the person become more and more demotivated to the point where he had to cover for him. So now he cannot do his job properly because he has to do the work to cover for the manager who is no longer performing. And so how does this happen and how do you prevent it? Well, I can't say exactly how it happened because I didn't study all the components which may have caused it. But the first thing you want to make sure when you're putting somebody in a position or promoting somebody, and I talk about this in many of my videos, is make sure you're hiring or promoting the right person for the job. And for that, I suggest also using assessments like the PXT Select that I recommend to my clients. This gives you a much deeper insight, more data to predict performance of that person in the job. It's a fantastic tool. But when you have somebody on board, you want to make sure they stay motivated and engaged with the work. And you can't do everything. You can only do what you can do. So here's some tips. I wrote them on the board. I just brainstormed for how to keep people motivated. The first thing is you must build trust with people so that if something changes in their motivation, they'll come to you perhaps and tell you if there's trust. If there's not trust, they're going to start looking behind your back for another job. And you won't find out till it's too late. Then you're going to be stuck either doing their job or having to scramble to replace that person. And that is not always a good thing to do, is to hire under stress. You want to be able to have the time to strategize and plan it and go through proper interview process. So in order to build trust, you need to have open and honest conversation or talks with the person. You need transparency, and it's a two-way street. So part of what I recommend for managers is to share what they're going through with their staff, with their employees, so they can get their input and they can get the support of the staff so each one understands each other. That's very important. And you do that through meeting regularly. And this is, where you take on a coaching style of leadership. So you regularly schedule a sit down with the person and you start off with things like, so how's it going? How are you feeling about the work? Tell me what's going on. Are you enjoying yourself? Are you feeling engaged with the work? Don't start talking right away about a project or a task. You'll probably do that every day anyways, but this is a time to just sit back and talk about the big picture of the job. How is the person feeling? Share your concerns, maybe what you're going through. Talk about the business environment, whatever. It's about open communication, and that's you need to do regularly. I recommend every month having this type of conversation with each employee. And I know it's not always that easy because everybody's busy, but that's really the job, or part of the job of a manager, is to coach, is to take the time with each person. If you can't do it every month, try every 60 days. If that's too much, at least once a quarter, 4 times a year. Meet with each person individually and have these conversations. The next thing is to make sure you're giving feedback, and not just the negative feedback, but the positive too. So that's praising, giving recognition. Some people need it more than others, but it reinforces what the person is doing well. I have several videos on how to give feedback, and you should check those out. The next thing is to keep work interesting. Make sure there's a rotation. Some people like routine, most don't. They want some variety. That's what life is. The variety of life is the spice of life. So try and change things up so that the person doesn't become bored and feel that they're not going anywhere. And that's the next thing, is to provide opportunities to grow. I talked about growth in a recent video, and that it's natural for all of us to want to grow. It's part of our hierarchy of needs to become self-realized, self-fulfilled, and growth is a way to do that. So we spend a lot of time at work. We need to feel like we're growing, and often people will say they're changing jobs because they're looking for more opportunities for growth. I hear it all the time. And in another recent video, I provided some data that the average time in a job these days is just over 4 years. So if you see employees reaching that 4-year anniversary, make sure you sit down with them and find out what's going on. Take the pulse of how they feel about working in the company. And the last thing is look for signs. If you see the person dragging their heels, showing up late, not being as, the attitudes change, they don't appear as motivated, you need to start again at the top. Just go through these steps and maybe just have that open conversation with them. This will boost the trust, they'll open up to you, and maybe you could turn things around so you're not covering for the person and you don't get into a situation where you urgently have to replace them. So apply these tips and you're sure, or you have a much better chance. I can't guarantee it. Again, it's starting with the right person in the job, but by practicing, applying these tips, you'll have a much better chance of keeping the person motivated, retaining them, and saving money on hiring, which is today very time-consuming and costly as well. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel to get news of new videos. Check out related articles on my website, the blog section, for the articles that accompany these videos. And check out also the forums section. I have lots of tools and forums that you could download for free. You could sign up for that. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk again soon.